Earth had always been considered a quiet, ordinary planet by the larger galaxy. Among the stars and civilizations that spanned light-years, humans seemed small and insignificant. Other planets had fleets of ships that could travel through wormholes, empires with advanced weapons that could destroy entire worlds, and civilizations that had existed for millions of years. Earth, in comparison, was young, inexperienced, and seemingly primitive, but appearances were deceiving. Beneath the surface of its blue oceans, green forests, and bustling cities, Earth had a secret that would shock the galaxy if it ever became known. For centuries, humans had been exploring and experimenting quietly, slowly advancing in technology. While other civilizations flaunted their power, Earth kept its discoveries largely hidden. Scientists had stumbled upon a form of energy that could manipulate gravity on a cosmic scale, a technology that could control the motion of planets, redirect asteroids, and even influence the orbits of stars. It was a power so immense that if it were used recklessly, it could destroy entire solar systems. But humans were cautious. They studied it quietly, tested it in controlled environments, and made sure it remained a secret. When humans finally reached out to the galaxy and joined the Interstellar Coalition, the other civilizations were intrigued. They saw Earth as a small, backward planet trying to catch up. The humans were invited to meetings, given small sectors of space to explore, and slowly introduced to the galaxy's politics. Despite this, Earth remained modest. They did not boast about their discoveries or try to dominate other planets. They made treaties, offered trade, and built alliances, but they never showed the full extent of their capabilities. The coalition leaders assumed humans were cautious because they were weak, because they lacked the power to enforce their will. They saw Earth's restraint as a sign of vulnerability, a weakness to exploit. Many of them underestimated humans completely. They mocked Earth's warnings about the dangers of reckless technology, laughing at the idea that a young planet could hold secrets that might rival the galaxy's oldest civilizations. The humans, however, knew the truth. They understood that real power did not need to be shown to be respected. They had learned through history that restraint and patience could be more dangerous than reckless strength. Earth's leaders made it clear in every council meeting they had the power to defend themselves, but they chose not to use it aggressively. They warned the galaxy that while they were holding back now, the consequences of underestimating humanity could be catastrophic. These warnings were often ignored or dismissed as exaggerations. Diplomats would nod politely, take notes, and then move on to discuss trade deals or territorial disputes. But behind closed doors, humans were preparing. Scientists and engineers continued to develop their gravitational technology, expanding its potential in ways that other civilizations could not yet imagine. Humans' secret was not just technology. It was a mindset, a combination of patience, strategy, and understanding of the universe. Unlike other civilizations that often rushed to display their strength, Earth had learned the value of waiting. They observed, they learned, and they adapted. Humans knew that showing power too early could lead to fear, jealousy, or attacks from those who did not understand it. By appearing modest and restrained, they kept potential enemies unaware of just how much Earth could do. Life on Earth itself reflected this cautious approach. On the surface, humans continued their daily routines. Cities grew, people worked, families lived, and cultures thrived. Scientists conducted experiments quietly, often under the guise of peaceful research, while engineers built devices that could, in theory, change the course of planets. The average person had no idea of the scale of the discoveries being made. To them, life was ordinary. To the galaxy, however, Earth was quietly preparing for a moment that might change the balance of power forever. One of the most remarkable aspects of humans' restraint was their ethical consideration. While other civilizations often used power for conquest, humans focused on understanding and responsibility. Every experiment was carefully measured. Every test had strict safety protocols. The technology they possessed was not meant to destroy but to protect. Humans had a deep respect for life, for balance, and for the delicate systems that governed the universe. This moral framework set them apart from other civilizations that relied on brute force and intimidation. Despite their restraint, humans were not naive. They knew that other civilizations might one day challenge them, either out of fear, greed, or arrogance. That was why their warnings were firm but polite. Every time the coalition dismissed Earth's cautions, humans recorded the events, studied the behaviors, and adapted their strategies. They knew that the galaxy was full of civilizations that had made fatal mistakes by underestimating smaller powers. Humanity had studied these histories and learned from them. They were determined not to repeat those mistakes. Earth's secret technology also had a profound impact on their culture. Scientists and leaders often debated the moral implications of using such immense power. Could they intervene in a distant conflict without causing harm? Could they redirect a natural disaster safely? Could they ever reveal their full capabilities without triggering panic? These questions were discussed at length in quiet rooms, far from the eyes of other civilizations. The answers shaped not only their policies but also their sense of identity as a species. Humans were not just explorers or engineers. They were guardians of a power they understood better than anyone else. The galaxy, however, did not see this depth. They saw Earth as a minor player, a planet still learning the rules of interstellar diplomacy. Some civilizations even tried to pressure humans into sharing their resources, assuming that Earth's technology was primitive and that they had nothing to offer in return. Humans responded with calm warnings, emphasizing that they were holding back for the safety of all, not because they lacked capability. These warnings, however, were met with skepticism, amusement, or outright dismissal. Yet, in secret, humans were ready. The dormant technology was maintained in hidden facilities, monitored continuously by teams of scientists. Simulations were run, tests were conducted, and fail-safes were put in place. They knew that one day a moment could arrive when restraint would no longer be an option. That day might come not from curiosity or exploration, but from aggression, from civilizations that refused to heed their warnings. When that day came, humans would be prepared to act decisively, if necessary, to protect themselves and maintain balance in the galaxy. This combination of hidden strength and public humility made Earth unique. Unlike other planets that flaunted their power, humans chose invisibility as a strategy. They were like a calm ocean, appearing gentle on the surface while holding immense force beneath. This duality created a sense of mystery around Earth. Even as they participated in coalition meetings, trade agreements, and exploration missions, those who studied the planet closely often reported feeling a subtle unease, an impression that humans were more capable than they let on. But these impressions were ignored by most, who continued to treat Earth as a secondary member of the galactic community. Humans' approach also reflected a long history of adaptation. On Earth, civilizations had risen and fallen, technology had advanced and regressed, and life had learned to endure countless challenges. This history gave humans a unique perspective on power and responsibility. They had seen firsthand how unchecked strength could lead to disaster, how arrogance could destroy entire societies, and how patience often achieved far more than aggression. This perspective was now applied to their role in the galaxy. Earth did not seek dominance, but they would not be dominated either. And so, the stage was set. The galaxy continued to move forward, unaware that one of its newest members held a power beyond imagination. Humans continued to warn, to negotiate, and to participate in interstellar politics, all while secretly preparing for a day when the galaxy might finally realize that Earth's modesty was not weakness, it was wisdom, restraint, and hidden strength. When that moment came, the galaxy would understand, perhaps too late, that Earth had always been holding back, not out of fear, but out of principle. The story of Earth in those years was one of quiet preparation. It was about the patience to wait, the intelligence to hide true strength, and the wisdom to avoid unnecessary conflict. The galaxy might laugh, dismiss, or ignore these warnings, but humanity's determination never wavered. They knew the truth. The galaxy had underestimated them, and one day, the consequences of that misjudgment would become impossible to ignore. The galaxy had heard Earth's warnings many times, but most civilizations simply ignored them. They saw humans as inexperienced and weak, a young species that had barely scratched the surface of technology compared to the ancient empires that had ruled the stars for millions of years. But humans knew better. They had seen the arrogance of these civilizations, their eagerness to exploit what they thought were weaker planets. Earth's leaders knew that ignoring the warnings was dangerous, but they also knew patience and strategy were their greatest weapons. At first, the challenge was subtle. Alien diplomats came to Earth with friendly smiles, offering trade deals and sharing knowledge in ways that seemed generous but were really attempts to manipulate and control. They wanted access to resources on Earth, particularly rare minerals and materials that could enhance their own technologies. Humans listened politely, took notes, and engaged in conversations with patience. They never refused outright, because they knew that outright rejection could provoke hostility. Instead, they skillfully avoided giving away anything of true value while maintaining appearances of cooperation. Even as Earth maintained its calm, tensions quietly grew. Some alien factions began to view humans with suspicion. They noticed that Earth's technology seemed more advanced than they had assumed. Human spacecraft traveled efficiently, with designs that were simple yet highly effective. Some fleets operated in ways that seemed almost magical, using gravity manipulation for propulsion in minor ways they didn't fully understand. Rumors began to spread among galactic leaders. Perhaps humans were not as weak as they appeared. Despite these rumors, many civilizations continued to treat Earth like a minor player. They demanded access to orbital facilities, asked for maps of nearby star systems, and tried to negotiate special rights to Earth's resources. Humans replied with polite warnings. They reminded other civilizations that certain areas were restricted, that their technology was dangerous if misused, and that attempts to force compliance could have serious consequences. The aliens laughed at these warnings, thinking humans were bluffing. They saw restraint as weakness and assumed that Earth had nothing powerful to defend itself with. The challenge escalated when one particularly aggressive faction decided to test humanity's patience. They moved a fleet of warships close to the solar border, openly challenging Earth's authority. The humans were not surprised, but the rest of the galaxy was watching carefully. Many expected Earth to panic or call for help from allies, but the humans remained calm. They increased surveillance, studied the enemy fleet's movements, and began preparing strategies to protect their planet without immediately resorting to force. Humans knew that a direct confrontation could escalate into war, something they wanted to avoid. They had a principle: power should only be used when necessary, and even then it should be precise and controlled. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock to ensure that their hidden gravitational technology was ready, but only as a last resort. Meanwhile, diplomats continued their efforts, sending messages that combined courtesy with firm warnings. "We are holding back," they said. "We do not wish for conflict, but we will defend ourselves if provoked." The alien faction, however, was not deterred. They began conducting maneuvers near the outer planets, testing Earth's defenses and provoking minor incidents to gauge human reactions. They sent reconnaissance ships close to Earth's orbit, scanned key facilities, and even attempted to intercept communication networks. Humans monitored everything silently, recording data and learning the enemy's patterns. They did not retaliate openly, but each action strengthened their understanding of how other civilizations thought and acted. Tensions within the human leadership were also rising. While the public remained largely unaware of the threat, the leaders knew that patience had limits. They held secret meetings, discussing how far they could push diplomacy before the situation required direct action. They debated the ethical implications of using their gravitational technology. Some argued that showing even a small demonstration of their power could prevent escalation, while others insisted on waiting until there was no other option. This balance of caution and readiness defined their strategy. Meanwhile, alien propaganda grew bolder. Factions began spreading false stories about Earth, claiming the humans were hiding dangerous weapons, exaggerating their strength, and presenting the planet as a potential threat to the galaxy. These stories were meant to intimidate other civilizations and provoke Earth into making a mistake. Humans saw through these tactics but recognized that perception could be as powerful as reality. They needed to be careful, because even a small misstep could trigger a full-scale attack from multiple civilizations. As the rising challenge continued, humans also faced internal pressures. Scientists and engineers pushed for accelerated testing of the core mantle engine, their primary gravitational technology, arguing that the threat might require action sooner than expected. Military strategists wanted to develop defensive protocols and contingency plans for every possible scenario. Diplomats insisted on maintaining a calm and measured public image to prevent panic both on Earth and among coalition members. Balancing these demands required careful coordination and constant vigilance. The critical moment of the rising challenge came when one alien fleet crossed a significant boundary near the solar system. This move was deliberate, a clear act of provocation. Humans observed the fleet's approach, calculating its speed, trajectory, and potential for harm. They sent messages warning the intruders to retreat, reiterating that Earth had capabilities far beyond what the galaxy assumed. But the aliens ignored these warnings, believing humanity would not dare take action behind the scenes. Earth's leadership had already prepared for this possibility. Defense grids were activated, communication systems were secured, and the gravitational technology was brought to operational readiness. Scientists worked in shifts, running final checks on containment systems, energy conduits, and gravitational field mod. Engineers adjusted calibration to ensure that any response would be precise, disabling the enemy without harming innocent life. The humans were ready to act, but they still waited, hoping the aliens would back down on their own. Diplomatic channels continued to operate, sending messages that emphasized restraint while highlighting the seriousness of the situation. Humans reminded the aliens that violating restricted zones could trigger consequences far beyond what they could imagine. They did not threaten with violence directly, but the implications were clear. The galaxy watched, holding its breath, as the situation balanced on a knife's edge. Even as the challenge escalated, humans maintained their characteristic patience and strategy. They knew that reacting impulsively could cause irreparable damage. By carefully observing the aliens, studying their behavior, and preparing contingency plans, Earth ensured that any action they took would be decisive and controlled. The rising challenge was not just a test of technology but also a test of human wisdom, patience, and the ability to combine restraint with readiness. Throughout this period, humans also used subtle intelligence gathering to gain an advantage. Probes were sent to monitor the alien fleet's movements, spy networks observed communications, and analysts studied every minor detail that could reveal weakness. Humans understood that in a galaxy full of ambitious civilizations, knowledge could be as powerful as weapons. They quietly accumulated information, prepared for multiple outcomes, and refined their strategies. By the end of this period, the rising challenge had transformed Earth from a seemingly passive participant in galactic affairs into a planet ready for confrontation if necessary. The humans had learned much about the arrogance and assumptions of other civilizations. They had tested their own patience, refined their strategies, and prepared the core mantle engine for use, all without exposing their true power prematurely. The galaxy might still underestimate them. But Earth was no longer naive. This period of rising challenge also shaped the character of humanity as a species. They learned the importance of observation, preparation, and measured response. They understood that restraint could be a form of power, and that sometimes, appearing small and harmless could conceal immense capability. The lessons learned during these tense months and years would define humanity's approach to the galaxy for decades to come. In the end, the rising challenge was more than just a threat from an aggressive alien fleet. It was a test of human patience, wisdom, and strategic thinking. It revealed the strengths and weaknesses of both humans and the galaxy around them. Most importantly, it showed that Earth's warnings, though ignored, were not empty words. Humans had been holding back, not out of fear, but out of principle. They were ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them, and they knew that when the time came, they could respond in a way that no one could ignore. The stage was now set for the next phase of conflict. The rising challenge had made it clear that some civilizations would not heed Earth's warnings. Some would continue to underestimate humans, believing their patience and restraint were signs of weakness. But humans had learned, through careful observation and preparation, that true power often lies hidden, waiting for the moment when it is needed most. The galaxy had dismissed them, but Earth was ready. The rising tensions that had quietly been building in the galaxy finally reached a breaking point. The alien factions that had previously dismissed Earth's warnings decided to push the humans further. Confident that they had reached the limits of what Earth could endure, they saw the planet as a young, inexperienced civilization, one that had always relied on diplomacy and restraint instead of showing real strength. But humans had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. They had anticipated escalation, and they were ready. The first sign of the escalation came with the sudden appearance of a massive alien fleet near the outer edges of the solar system. Hundreds of warships moved in formation, their engines glowing like stars against the darkness of space. Each ship was armed with weapons capable of destroying satellites, space stations, and even small planets. This was not a scouting mission or a casual maneuver. It was a deliberate show of force. The humans immediately detected the fleet's presence through advanced sensors that they had carefully hidden from the rest of the galaxy. They analyzed the ship's movements, studied their attack patterns, and prepared for the worst. Despite the threat, Earth remained calm. Leaders held emergency meetings in secret bunkers and command centers, far below the planet's surface. Scientists monitored gravitational fields, engineers checked containment units, and military strategists ran countless simulations to understand every possible outcome. Unlike the alien factions, humans did not act impulsively. They understood that reacting too early could give the aliens exactly what they wanted, a confrontation that might escalate into a full-scale war. Humans preferred control and precision over chaos and destruction. Diplomacy continued even in the face of this threat. Earth's ambassadors sent messages to the alien leaders, warning them that their presence in restricted zones was unacceptable. The messages were polite but firm, emphasizing that Earth had capabilities far beyond what they had revealed, and that any hostile action would have consequences. The aliens, confident in their own power, ignored these warnings. They assumed humans were bluffing, that the planet's reputation for restraint was evidence of weakness rather than hidden strength. As the alien fleet moved closer to Earth, small skirmishes began to occur. Reconnaissance drones sent by the aliens were intercepted and disabled without causing casualties. Satellites were temporarily jammed, and minor defensive measures were tested. Each of these incidents was a reminder that humans were monitoring every move, gathering intelligence, and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. The galaxy watched from a distance, unaware that a hidden force was quietly assessing the situation with precision and patience. Behind the scenes, the humans faced immense pressure. Scientists argued that the time had come to activate the core mantle engine, their planet-sized gravitational technology. Engineers cautioned that even a minor miscalculation could have unintended consequences, potentially endangering their own planet. Military leaders emphasized the need for readiness, arguing that a swift, decisive demonstration of power might prevent further aggression. These discussions were intense, filled with careful consideration of every variable, every possible outcome, and every moral implication. Finally, the critical moment arrived when one of the alien factions crossed into Earth's most heavily protected orbital zone. They destroyed an unarmed research station, capturing several scientists in the process. This action was not accidental. It was a deliberate provocation designed to test humanity's limits. The entire coalition of alien civilizations watched closely, anticipating Earth's reaction. Most expected panic, perhaps even a desperate call for help from more powerful allies. What they did not expect was the quiet, controlled response that was already in motion. The humans activated their core mantle engine, but not in a way that immediately caused destruction. Instead, they used it to manipulate gravitational fields on a massive scale, creating a force that immobilized the alien ships. It was precise, targeted, and non-lethal. Enemy vessels were lifted out of position, their engines disrupted, and their navigation systems disabled. Ships that had once moved with confidence now floated helplessly, unable to respond to commands. Humans had chosen to demonstrate their power without causing unnecessary death, making it clear that they were both capable and restrained. The galaxy reacted with shock. Civilization after civilization realized that Earth had been underestimated. The young planet that everyone thought was weak had been holding back, concealing technology and strategic intelligence that rivaled or even surpassed the most advanced fleets in the galaxy. The alien factions that had mocked humanity now faced the consequences of their arrogance. They had treated a young, cautious planet as insignificant, only to discover that Earth's restraint had been deliberate, calculated, and backed by unimaginable power. During this escalation, humans also demonstrated another remarkable trait: their focus on ethics and control. While their power could have destroyed entire fleets, they chose not to inflict casualties. Scientists and engineers worked to ensure that the gravitational manipulation targeted only the ships and machinery, leaving crew members unharmed. This careful, measured approach was consistent with humanity's philosophy. Power should be used responsibly, and strength should be tempered with wisdom. The galaxy began to see that humans were not just technologically advanced, but also morally disciplined. The aliens quickly realized that they could not fight Earth conventionally. Their weapons were useless against the gravitational distortions, their maneuvers ineffective against the precise manipulation of space itself. Attempts to retreat were hindered by the subtle shifts in gravity, forcing the fleets to comply with humanity's control. Earth had demonstrated not only raw power but also strategic genius. Every action was calculated to protect the planet while asserting authority over the intruders. In the midst of this crisis, humans also maintained their calm leadership. Command centers operated with efficiency. Coordination between scientists and strategists was flawless, and communication with civilians was carefully managed to prevent panic. The average person on Earth remained largely unaware of the danger above them. This ability to act decisively while maintaining public calm reflected the unique combination of intelligence, preparation, and discipline that defined humanity. As the critical moment unfolded, humans extended an olive branch while maintaining dominance. They sent clear messages to the alien leaders, emphasizing that further aggression would be met with consequences that could not be ignored. They offered a choice: withdraw peacefully or face complete immobilization and control. The aliens, humbled and terrified, finally understood the full extent of Earth's warnings. For years, humanity had claimed restraint, had cautioned against provocation, and had been ignored. Now, the consequences of ignoring those warnings were undeniable. The outcome of this critical moment reshaped the galaxy's understanding of power. Civilizations that had previously dismissed Earth as weak now recognized the planet as a formidable force. Humanity had combined technology, strategy, and ethics in a way that few other civilizations had achieved. They had shown that true power was not just about the ability to destroy, but about the ability to control, protect, and enforce limits responsibly. In the days following the escalation, humans worked to stabilize the situation. The alien fleets were gradually released from the gravitational hold, but only after formal agreements were made to respect Earth's boundaries. Diplomats negotiated carefully, ensuring that no faction felt humiliated. But the message was clear: Earth was no longer a planet to be underestimated. Every civilization in the galaxy had witnessed the consequences of arrogance and disregard for warning. This critical moment also had a lasting effect on human society. The scientists, engineers, and leaders involved were recognized not for their ability to wield power destructively, but for their wisdom and restraint and precise action. Humanity's confidence grew, tempered by the knowledge that they had acted ethically even in extreme circumstances. The public, once unaware, began to learn more about their planet's capabilities and the careful planning that had gone into protecting it. A new sense of pride and unity emerged, along with a deep understanding of the responsibilities that came with power. The galaxy, if too, began to adjust its approach to Earth. Diplomatic relations changed almost overnight. Formerly aggressive factions became cautious, recognizing that underestimating humans was dangerous. Alliances were reconsidered, trade negotiations were approached with more respect, and even the most powerful civilizations began to acknowledge Earth as an equal, if not superior, participant in galactic affairs. Humans' patience, strategy, and ethical use of technology had earned them a reputation that would last for generations. In the end, the critical moment was a turning point. It demonstrated that humans were capable of defending themselves, that their warnings were genuine, and that their restraint was not weakness but calculated wisdom. The escalation had tested their abilities, challenged their patience, and forced them to act decisively. Humanity had not only survived the challenge but had transformed the galaxy's perception of their species. Through all of this, humans maintained a guiding principle: power must be tempered with responsibility, and strength must be balanced with ethics. The core mantle engine had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of, but the humans themselves had shown what it meant to be wise, disciplined, and morally strong. Civilizations that once mocked Earth now approached with caution, and the galaxy would never again ignore the planet that had quietly held back for so long. The alien factions, humbled and shaken, had no choice but to acknowledge Earth's authority. Humanity had demonstrated not just technological superiority, but strategic brilliance and ethical mastery. The galaxy had learned a harsh lesson. When patience is ignored, consequences are inevitable. And humans, who had waited so long for the right moment, that had acted with precision, care, and overwhelming force, forever changing the balance of power in the stars. After the critical confrontation with the alien fleets, the situation entered a phase of resolution. The galaxy had finally realized the truth about Earth. The humans had been underestimated, their warnings ignored, and their restraint mistaken for weakness. What had been a period of escalating tension was now moving toward clarity. The alien factions, still reeling from the sudden demonstration of power, were forced to rethink their strategy. For the first time, they understood that Earth was not a planet to manipulate or intimidate, that humans had shown that they could protect themselves with precision, intelligence, and restraint, and that they would not hesitate to act if provoked again. Diplomacy became the primary focus. Earth's leaders knew that their demonstration of power had sent a strong message, but they also understood that conflict could be avoided if the right steps were taken. Human diplomats began communicating directly with the leaders of the alien factions, making it clear that further aggression would not be tolerated. Their messages emphasized respect, negotiation, and cooperation, but also highlighted the undeniable fact: Earth had capabilities that could not be challenged by conventional means. The tone was firm, confident, and controlled. Humans were not threatening war, they were demanding recognition of their sovereignty. The alien factions, humbled and cautious, responded cautiously. They acknowledged the incident, expressed a desire to avoid further conflict, and opened negotiations to establish clear boundaries and rules of engagement. What had once been a show of arrogance and aggression transformed into careful diplomacy. Humans had not only protected their planet, but they had also reshaped the approach the galaxy would take in dealing with them. Instead of relying on intimidation, other civilizations now treated Earth with respect. They understood that any attempt to exploit or provoke the humans could have consequences beyond their comprehension. Negotiations were intense and meticulous. Human diplomats carefully outlined terms that ensured Earth's autonomy and security. They demanded recognition of territorial boundaries, respect for restricted zones, and formal agreements preventing future interference. At the same time, they offered cooperation and trade, showing that humanity sought partnership rather than domination. The alien leaders, still shaken by the display of controlled power, agreed to the terms, knowing that resisting would be dangerous and unnecessary. It was a moment of strategic victory for humans. It achieved not through reckless force, but through careful planning, patience, and ethical use of technology. One of the most remarkable aspects of this resolution was the balance humans maintained between authority and diplomacy. They had demonstrated their power decisively, yet they avoided unnecessary destruction. Their actions had disabled entire fleets without harming lives, proving that strength could be exercised responsibly. This approach earned humans a level of respect that no demonstration of brute force could achieve. Civilizations across the galaxy began to see humanity not only as a powerful species but also as one guided by ethics, reason, and strategic intelligence. The aftermath of the confrontation also revealed the depth of human planning and foresight. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to ensure that the core mantle engine remained secure and functional, ready for any future threats. Military strategists developed contingency plans for all possible scenarios, analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of every known civilization in the galaxy. Diplomats continued to communicate with former aggressors, ensuring that misunderstandings were resolved and agreements were upheld. Humanity had turned a potential crisis into a long-term advantage, securing both safety and influence. Within the human leadership, there was a sense of cautious optimism. They had proven that their warnings were not empty, that their restraint was intentional, and that their power was real. The success of the resolution reinforced the importance of preparation, patience, and ethical decision. Leaders reflected on the lessons learned. Arrogance in the galaxy could be countered not just with weapons, but with intelligence and discipline. Strength needed to be accompanied by responsibility, and ethical considerations were as crucial as tactical ones. These lessons would guide humanity for generations, shaping how they interacted with other civilizations. On Earth itself, the public gradually became aware of the events. Citizens learned that their planet had faced an unprecedented threat and had emerged victorious without loss of life. The story of human ingenuity, restraint, and courage spread, fostering a renewed sense of pride and unity. Schools, media, and cultural institutions began teaching the importance of patience, preparation, and ethical responsibility in the face of power. Humans began to see themselves not merely as inhabitants of a small planet, but as guardians of a force that could influence the galaxy in profound ways. The resolution also had significant effects on interstellar politics. Alien factions that had previously sought to dominate or exploit Earth now approached the planet with caution and respect. Alliances were reevaluated, trade agreements renegotiated, and diplomatic channels strengthened. The display of controlled power had shifted the balance in the galaxy, forcing civilizations to treat humans as equals. Humans had demonstrated that intelligence, ethics, and strategic thinking could outweigh raw aggression, and this lesson reshaped how other civilizations interacted with them. In addition to diplomacy and politics, the resolution reinforced the importance of technology and strategy. The core mantle engine had proven its effectiveness, not only as a defensive tool but also as a symbol of human capability. Scientists continued to refine their understanding of gravitational manipulation, exploring new applications for research, exploration, and planetary protection. Engineers developed enhanced systems to ensure that the technology could be used safely, effectively, and ethically. Humanity's ability to combine innovation with responsibility became a defining characteristic, admired and respected throughout the galaxy. As the negotiations concluded and alien fleets withdrew to their own territories, humans reflected on the broader significance of the resolution. They had faced a moment of extreme danger, one that could have escalated into devastating war. Instead, they had turned the crisis into an opportunity to demonstrate their values, capabilities, and intelligence. The outcome showed that patience, strategic thinking, and ethical restraint could achieve far more than reckless aggression. Humanity had not only defended their planet, they had reshaped the galaxy's perception of them forever. The resolution also strengthened human unity and identity. Citizens realized that their species had survived and thrived through careful planning, courage, and discipline. The experience fostered a sense of collective pride, responsibility, and purpose. Humanity understood that they were now seen as a powerful, ethical, and strategic civilization, one capable of influencing events on a galactic scale. This recognition created a new era of confidence, not arrogance. As humans embraced their role as both protectors and partners in the galaxy, beyond politics and technology, the resolution highlighted the importance of wisdom and ethics in decisions. Humans had demonstrated that true strength was not measured by the destruction one could cause, but by the control, responsibility, and foresight one exercised. The core mantle engine had been a tool of protection, not annihilation, showing that power and morality could coexist. Civilizations throughout the galaxy began to reassess their own approaches to conflict, diplomacy, and ethical responsibility. Inspired by humanity's example, the successful resolution also sent a clear message to any civilization that might consider challenging Earth in the future. Humans had proven that they could respond decisively, with precision and control, to threats of any magnitude. They had shown that arrogance and underestimation of a restrained power could lead to serious consequences. The galaxy learned that Earth's warnings were genuine, that restraint was a form of strength, and that humans were capable of acting strategically and ethically when the situation demanded it. In the aftermath, humans also took steps to ensure long-term stability. They strengthened communication channels with allies, established protocols for conflict resolution, and continued to develop technology responsibly. The core mantle engine was maintained with strict oversight, ensuring that it would be available in case of future threats. Humans understood that power required ongoing vigilance, planning, and ethical considerations. The resolution had not ended the challenges of the galaxy, but it had secured Earth's position and established a foundation for lasting influence and protection. Ultimately, the resolution marked a turning point in human history. The planet had faced aggression, navigated a critical confrontation, and emerged stronger, more respected, and more united. Humans had demonstrated that restraint, intelligence, and ethical use of power could achieve what brute force alone could not. The galaxy had learned a powerful lesson. To underestimate Earth was a mistake, one that could never be repeated. Humanity had achieved a balance between authority and diplomacy, strength and ethics, preparation and action. The resolution was not merely the end of a crisis, it was the beginning of a new era. Earth was now recognized as a formidable force, a strategic and ethical civilization, and a respected participant in the galactic community. The lessons learned during this period would guide humans for generations, shaping their approach to power, responsibility, and diplomacy in ways that ensured their survival, influence, and continued growth. The resolution, in essence, was proof of humanity's wisdom. They had faced escalation and aggression, managed the crisis with precision and ethics, and secured their place in the galaxy without unnecessary destruction. The combination of technology, strategy, and moral discipline had turned a potential disaster into an opportunity for growth, respect, and long-term stability. Humanity had proven that true power was measured not just by capability, but by restraint, foresight, and the ability to act decisively when necessary. After the resolution of the conflict with the alien fleets, Earth entered a period of reflection and transformation. The planet that had once been seen as quiet, ordinary, and inexperienced was now recognized throughout the galaxy as a formidable force, both in terms of technology and intelligence. Humans had not only defended their home but had also demonstrated that restraint, patience, and ethical use of power could achieve results that brute force alone never could. The galaxy now looked at Earth with a mixture of respect, awe, and caution. On the weeks following the confrontation, humans carefully reviewed everything that had happened. Scientists, engineers, military leaders, and diplomats worked together to analyze the events and draw lessons from them. They studied every move the alien fleets had made, every decision taken by human leaders, and every outcome of the core mantle engine's deployment. The goal was not only to understand what had worked but also to prepare for future challenges. Humanity understood that while they had won this moment, the galaxy was vast and unpredictable. They needed to be ready for anything. The core mantle engine, which had played such a decisive role, became both a symbol and a responsibility. Humans now knew the full extent of the power they possessed, but they also recognized the weight of having such power. The technology could influence entire star systems, and its potential consequences were immense. Engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to improve safety measures, develop fail-safes, and create protocols to ensure that the technology would never be used recklessly. Every decision regarding its use was now guided by careful ethical considerations. Humanity had learned that true power was not only in the ability to act, but also in the wisdom to know when to act diplomatically. Earth's position in the galaxy had changed forever. Alien factions that had once mocked, threatened, or underestimated humans now approached them with respect. Trade negotiations became more balanced, alliances were made with greater trust, and Earth's voice in interstellar councils gained unprecedented weight. The planet's experience had shown the galaxy that arrogance toward smaller civilizations could lead to dangerous consequences. Humanity had earned the right to participate not only as a member of the galactic community but as a respected leader in strategic and ethical decision-making on Earth itself. Society began to feel the impact of these events in new ways. People learned that their planet had faced extraordinary danger and had emerged victorious, not through sheer force, but through intelligence, restraint, and careful planning. Schools, media, and cultural institutions began to share stories of human courage, strategy, and moral discipline. Citizens felt a renewed sense of pride and purpose. Humanity realized that they were not just inhabitants of a small planet but participants in a much larger universe, capable of shaping events far beyond their solar system. The reflection period also encouraged humans to think deeply about the responsibilities that came with power. They had demonstrated their strength, but they had done so ethically and responsibly. This balance between capability and morality became a defining feature of humanity's identity. Leaders emphasized that the core mantle engine and other advanced technologies were not tools for domination but instruments for protection, understanding, and careful exploration. Ethics and responsibility were no longer abstract concepts. They were practical requirements for survival and leadership in the galaxy. Humans also used this period to strengthen alliances with civilizations that had acted with caution and respect during the confrontation. They reached out to planets and empires that had shown restraint, building partnerships that could provide mutual support and cooperation. The galaxy's network of relationships shifted. Earth became a hub for strategic collaboration, a place where civilizations could come together to solve common problems, exchange knowledge, and develop technology responsibly. The planet's influence grew not through fear, but through trust and demonstrated competence. Another important aspect of the aftermath was the way humans dealt with the alien factions that had been aggressive. While the fleets had been immobilized and negotiations secured, humans understood that long-term peace required careful management. They maintained communication channels, monitored potential threats, and created clear agreements to prevent misunderstandings or provocations. The approach was measured, strategic, and consistent with their philosophy. Power without responsibility could invite disaster, but power exercised wisely could ensure stability for generations. The reflection period also allowed humans to consider the lessons they had learned from observing other civilizations. They recognized patterns of arrogance, greed, and impatience that often led to conflict and destruction. Humans understood that many of the galaxy's civilizations had failed to respect limits, overestimating their own capabilities and underestimating others. Earth's experience had proven that caution, ethical behavior, and patience were not weaknesses, they were strengths. By combining intelligence, morality, and strategic foresight, humans had not only survived but had reshaped the way the galaxy viewed power. Throughout this time, humans also focused on internal development. Scientists continued to advance research in physics, space travel, and energy manipulation, always with the understanding that their discoveries carried great responsibility. Engineers improved infrastructure to ensure that Earth could withstand potential threats and continue to thrive. Leaders emphasized education, cooperation, and ethical decision-making, preparing future generations to handle the responsibilities that came with knowledge and power. The planet's experience with the alien fleets had not only changed its role in the galaxy, but also transformed its society from within. Humanity's reflection extended to philosophy and culture. Artists, writers, and thinkers explored the meaning of restraint, power, and responsibility. Stories of the confrontation with the alien fleets became symbols of human wisdom and courage, teaching lessons about patience, foresight, and the careful exercise of strength. The experience shaped not only technology and politics but also the collective consciousness of the species. Humans began to see themselves as guardians, not conquerors, and their history was rewritten in a way that emphasized intelligence, ethics, and strategic thinking. The aftermath also included a reevaluation of what it meant to be a part of the galaxy. Earth's experience had proven that survival depended not just on technology, but on understanding, diplomacy, and ethical action. Humans now approached interactions with other civilizations with a combination of caution, confidence, and respect. They recognized that the galaxy was full of unpredictable actors, some aggressive and some cooperative, and that their actions would shape not only their own destiny but also the balance of power across star systems over time. Earth became a model for other civilizations. Planets that had previously relied on aggression or intimidation began to observe and learn from humanity's approach. Diplomats, scientists, and strategists from across the galaxy sought Earth's guidance on issues of technology, ethics, and conflict resolution. Humanity's experience became a case study in the effective combination of power, restraint, and moral responsibility. The planet that had once been underestimated was now a source of insight, strategy, and inspiration. Humanity's reflection also included personal lessons for individuals. Citizens began to understand the importance of preparation, patience, and responsible action in their own lives. The planet's experience became a metaphor for decision-making, strategy, and ethical behavior in the face of challenges. People learned that visible strength alone did not ensure success, but intelligence, foresight, and ethical action could lead to extraordinary outcomes. The story of Earth's confrontation with the alien fleets became a part of everyday culture, shaping values, education, and civic responsibility. Even beyond political, technological, and cultural changes, humans embraced the long-term implications of their actions. They realized that they had permanently altered the way the galaxy perceived power, restraint, and ethics. Civilizations that had once dismissed Earth now approached with caution and respect. Humans had shown that underestimating a patient, strategic, and ethical species could lead to disaster. The galaxy had learned, perhaps painfully, that humanity's warnings were sincere and their restraint was deliberate. Earth had not only survived, it had redefined the rules of engagement in the cosmos. The reflection period also reinforced the importance of vigilance. Humans knew that the galaxy was vast, full of unpredictable civilizations, and that threats could arise at any time. They continued to monitor space carefully, refine their technology, and maintain their ethical standards. The core mantle engine remained secure and ready, but it was not a tool for domination. It was a safeguard, a symbol of responsibility, and a reminder that power must always be coupled with wisdom. Over generations, humanity's experience with the alien fleets became a defining chapter in their history. Stories were passed down, teaching the importance of strategic thinking, ethical behavior, and restraint. The planet's leaders emphasized that their survival and success had not come from arrogance or aggression but from preparation, intelligence, and careful use of power. The lessons learned would guide humans for centuries, shaping not only their approach to other civilizations but also their own culture, values, and identity. In the final analysis, the aftermath of the conflict showed that humanity had grown in multiple ways. They had secured their place in the galaxy, demonstrated their ethical strength, and gained respect from civilizations that had once dismissed them. They had proven that patience, strategy, and moral responsibility were as important as technology and power. The galaxy now recognized that humans were not just survivors, they were leaders, innovators, and guardians of a force that could shape the cosmos. Earth's reflection also reinforced a sense of purpose. Humans had learned that their strength carried responsibility, and that their actions had consequences far beyond their planet. They embraced the role of guardians, balancing power with ethics, and influence with restraint. Humanity had been underestimated for centuries, but now they were seen for what they truly were, a species capable of extraordinary intelligence, moral discipline, and strategic vision. As the galaxy adjusted to this new reality, humans continued to grow, explore, and prepare. They knew that challenges would come again, but they were ready. They had learned the value of restraint, the power of strategy, and the necessity of ethical responsibility. The planet had survived, the civilization had strengthened, and the galaxy had learned a lesson it would not forget. Humanity's reflection was complete. They had faced the ultimate test, emerged wiser and stronger, and had permanently reshaped their place in the universe. In the end, Earth's story became a reminder to all civilizations. Power is most effective when tempered with wisdom, restraint, and responsibility. Humans had waited, prepared, and acted at the right moment, ensuring not only their survival but also their lasting influence. The galaxy had learned that ignoring warnings, underestimating patience, and dismissing ethical strength could be a dangerous mistake. Humanity had held back for centuries, and when they acted, they had done so with precision, care, and undeniable authority. The aftermath was not only a victory, it was a transformation, one that ensured humanity's lasting legacy among the stars.